All right, shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High. All right, it's your brother Ra'am from Yahawah'S camp. Hey, just want to give all praises to Water for joining in. If you read the title, this is going to be a very important message, a very important lesson through the spirit of Yahawah Shem Yahawashi, something I put together. So hopefully, you can like, subscribe, and share, and you can like this information that I want to bring out. It's nothing too major as far as real deep breakdowns. It's just something that's just real good for the soul, real good for the spirit, and it's about the collateral damage of sin. All right. Again, this is about the collateral damage of what we know as that sin. So first on, before we get started, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh. And I do so in the name of his only begotten son, Hamashiach Yahawashi, of course, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Real name is Yahawashi in the Hebrew, who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, referring to Yahweh. Of course, Yahweh's name means he that is, or he exists, or he that causes to exist. And Yahawah's name, of course, is he is, or he causes salvation. All right. Again, this is Captain Ra'am from Yahawah's camp, Raleigh, North Carolina. All right, shout out to the brothers at Yahawah's camp. Shout out to the elders at Yahawah's camp, the elder priests, Elder Zaquan, of course. And of course, shout out to all the elders around, starting with the house of David, moving over to the elders throughout the four corners of the earth, man. Shout out to each and every one of the camps. Mighty shalom to y'all brothers that's doing the work. Shalom to y'all brothers, and of course, shalom to the sisters. And to all Israel that's out there on the highways and byways, doing the work of this ministry, being laborers, of course, in these last days. It's February 9th, 2024. All right, hopefully we can get this video up today for the subscribers, for the listeners. Again, if this message is something that you feel and you know is beneficial, to the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans who are the true children of God, please forward this information over to your brothers, to your sisters, to your aunts, your nephews, your nieces, grandmothers, grandfathers, whoever, right, that can use this message. Please forward this information over to them. Again, like, subscribe, and share, comment, whatever you feel is on your heart. Again, this is Brother Ra'am from Yahawah's camp. We are in North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina. Please email if you have a desire to join the camp, or if you want to have information on the camp, or if you want to discuss some biblical topics. We are open to that information or that invite as well. All right. So again, I just want to get started on the collateral damage of sin. Again, the lesson, the title of today's lesson is the collateral damage of sin. Of course, also happy new moon as well. Happy new moon, happy new year. We are at the end of this thing, as you can see, and yeah, it's our job to just go out and edify our people, and get the blood off our hands. So real quick, I want to get the definition of sin. So if you are new to this channel, or if you're new to the understanding of the Bible, what we teach is strictly the Bible. All right. We don't add our own words. We don't add our own input, our own thoughts. Really, it goes back to what we teach comes out of this word. Actually, before I get the definition of sin, I want to substantiate what I'm saying with the Bible verse. All right. I want to substantiate what I'm saying with an actual Bible verse, because you're not going to get this much detail going to church. You're not going to get this much detail in the Christian church. You're not going to get this much detail in the Christian community, the Jehovah's Witness community, the Baptist community, whatever denomination, Catholicism, Islam, whatever, right? You're not going to get this much detail on the Bible unless you come to the true stewards of the Bible, and that is the Israelite today. So this is the book of Isaiah, all right? Isaiah chapter 8, verse 20. Again, I'm substantiating on why I go to the Bible, why Israelites go into the Bible so often and so much. And it's to give an actual biblical understanding on our understanding, if that makes sense. So it says, Again, Isaiah 8:20. To the law and to the testimony. Again, to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them, right? So I just want to just substantiate that. Everything that I'm going to bring out has to be corroborated with the scriptures. Everything that your pastor should bring out must be corroborated with the scriptures. You can be able to fact check it with this Bible. If you're not fact checking, or if you're not using the Bible to make a biblical claim, then that's because there is no light in them. And so I'm coming out of this Bible so much and so often because I want our people to understand, right? If you're looking to this channel, why the Bible is important when you're having a biblical conversation. All right, so again, today's message is the collateral damage of sin. So I just want to just bring out the understanding of what collateral damage is. What collateral damage is the result of an action, right? So you do an action, whatever the case may be. If you're out and you're, doing things bad, right? Let's just say you're vandalizing property. You're going through the neighborhood, you're vandalizing property. The collateral damage of that action, right, is jail time. The collateral damage of that action could be community service. The collateral damage of that could be death, right? If someone sees someone else vandalizing their property, how many times have we seen that person or those people have harm inflicted on them because of their actions? That's collateral damage. All right, so here's the definition of sin real quick. It says, this is 1 John 3:4. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law. So I'm going to stop right there. So if you commit sin, the way that we measure sin, the standard that we measure sin is by the law. The law says what to do and what not to do, right? I'm going to say it again. The law tells you what to do, tells us what to do, what to eat, how to wear our clothes, what feast days and high holy days to celebrate, what things to abstain from, right? You can't abstain. You can't indulge in wicked acts, right? Homosexuality, drug use, name them, murder, idolatry, adultery, the list goes on and on. That would be a sin. So whosoever committeth sin transgressed the law. For sin is the transgression of the law. So write that down. 1 John 3:4 gives you the definition of sin by the Bible, by the men and the people who wrote this book for our people, right? So when we understand what sin is, everything I say moving forward, I want you to understand what this verse we just brought out showed you. That sin is the transgression of the law. So now you got to go back and study the law, right? Just read the law. You can print the law out, right? You can Google 613 laws, right? And if you do that, then you'll be a step ahead of the game and you know what to do and what not to do. This is for my beginning brothers and sisters, right? Even up to the advanced brothers and sisters, because we all need some sort of a refresher. All right, so we just got the definition of sin, which is the transgression of the law, right? So I just want to get that out the way, right? Just substantiate that. Now let's get this 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9. All right. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 9, and I'm going to read through to 11. All right. 2 Corinthians 5 and 9. It says, wherefore we labor, that whether present or absent, we may be accepted of him. So we labor to be accepted by the Most High and his son, Yahawah'S, right? That labor goes a long way. A lot of people don't labor. I got a lot of people in the truth, the so-called truth, don't labor. All right. Labor is what's going to get you ultimately that crown of righteousness. Labor, obedience, patience, faith in Yahawah'S Mashiach, all these things substantiate how we can get accepted of the Most High. Verse 10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Yahawah'S or Hamashiach, right? It says Christ. So we're all going to appear before Christ when it comes to being judged, that everyone may receive the things done in his body, according to that he hath done, whether it be good or bad. Again, and this goes into this Revelations. Let me get that real quick, right? Revelations 20. Because, the Christian church will just say it's not by works, but by faith. And what we teach, at least at Yahawah'S camp, we teach you got to have three things, right? Well, really four, right? Labor, faith, works, and endurance. All right, this is Revelation 20 and 12. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God. And the books were opened. And another book was opened, which is the book of life. So again, the book of life would be what? What is the book of life? You may ask yourself, what is the book of life? The book of life is the standard, or what we would call the Torah. That's because the law gives you life, right? Matter of fact, again, I want to just Isaiah 8 and 20 this thing throughout this lesson. All right, let me get Baruch 4 real quick. Baruch in the Apocrypha, right? Highly encourage you to get in the Apocrypha. This is Baruch chapter 4, verse 1. This is the book of the commandments of God, and the law that endureth forever. All they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die, right? So the book of life is the commandments, the law, right? The Torah. That's what helps us live. All right. So again, Revelation 20 and 12 says, and I saw the dead, small and great, standing before God, and the books were open, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books according to their works. All right. So again, when we go into the works that we do, the laboring that we do, right? Going out there on the highways and byways, bidding to the marriage, trying to speed up the elect being sealed, right? Trying to wake up the dead, trying to commit. Wait, watch this. Keeping the laws of having love for your neighbor, right? Having love for your neighbor is not suffering sin upon them. You can read that in Leviticus, all right, 19. So our point is, and what Paul's writing right here is that we must all appear, again, this is 2 Corinthians 5 and 10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ. We just read that in Revelation 20. That everyone may receive the things done in his body you're going to be judged according to that he have done, whether it be good or bad. Meaning, whether you kept the laws or broken the laws. Verse 11, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. And that's heavy, right? That's heavy. The terror of the Lord. When I was in church, I never really got the dark side of God. I never, heard the dark side of Yahawah'S. Never received the understanding that he is the great and terrible power, right? They called him the firstborn of death, right? The Most High he was called the demon god by the other nations. Going out, killing the firstborn of death, having those 10 plagues of Egypt hit the Egyptians, right? And spare the Israelites, swallowing up the Egyptians in the Red Sea and allowing the Israelites to continue to thrive, right? All these things we're talking about. And that's what personifies the Most High, that judge, right? That balanced judge. Verse 11, knowing therefore the terror of the Lord, we persuade men, and we try to persuade men to put the pork down. We go out there on these streets and we try to tell our sisters to put clothes on, right? To keep their bodies chaste, to be respectable women, for our brothers to be respectable men, right? Keeping these commandments, putting the cigarettes out, right? Stop committing murder. Stop scheming on your brother. Stop coveting what your sister has. All these things is how we persuade the brothers, how we persuade our sisters. But we are made manifest unto God, and I trust also are made manifest in your consciences, right? So I just want to just start off with that, and hopefully, the Spirit bear witness on what I'm sharing with you today. And again, this is the collateral damage of sin. So again, the definition of collateral damage, right? It's harm of people, family, property, or infrastructure. America has created what you would say, America has sowed seeds, right? The collateral damage would be what you would say is what happened on 9/11. That's just an example, right? When you go out and you police the world, I'm trying to be politically correct for the YouTube, but when you police the world as America, right? And you try to influence people to change their culture, change their ways, and they reject, and then you put tariffs on them, you sanction them, right? And then you have what you would call attacks that happen as a response. That would be collateral damage. So that's just an example, right? When you want to come into, you talk about Pearl Harbor, which happened in the 40s, where the Japanese bombed the Hawaiian Islands, where they had American Navy, the American Navy and the American Air Force was there, right? That's the collateral damage of war. Again, the definition of collateral damage is harm of people, family, property, or infrastructure. So the collateral damage of sin can also fall into that category as well with the Most High, because who judges the people that commit sin? Ultimately, the judge is the Most High. Ultimately, that's the judge. When you get that swift judgment, when it's coming right away, that's the Most High judging you based off what? Your actions, based off what you've done. You broke the Sabbath and you spent money, and then you wondering why the next week, right? Dang, I ain't got no money. That's collateral damage. All right, this is Acts chapter 20, verse 26. All right, Acts 20 and 26. Wherefore, I take you to record this day that I am pure from the blood of all men, right? So this is why, as brothers in this walk that's out there teaching, and I know it's not received well, because of some young guys telling you, to change your ways, change the way that you're doing things. You really don't give the patience, right? Let's just say the patience to listen to that young brother, right? To listen to them brothers on the corners that's yelling and sighing and crying and prophesying and teaching his word. All right. So our job is to get the blood off our hands. All right. To put these videos out periodically, to go out there week in and week out and teach the word. Verse 27, for I have not shunned to you to declare unto you all the counsel of God. So we're not hiding, right? Paul, right? We are not hiding the counsel that God gave us. We're not going to hide that under like Yahawah'S said, don't let your light shine under a bushel. Don't hide your light. Don't hide the wisdom you've been given. We're not going to do the same thing. We're going to speak this word. Verse 28, take heed, therefore, unto yourselves and to all the flock over the which the Holy Spirit have made you overseers to feed the church of God, right? So we are the ones who actually feed the church of the Most High. We are the new shepherds. When the pastors failed, we got to come in and do the cleanup and then re-educate our people, right? We got to clean things up. We got to re-educate our people, right? To feed the church of God, which he hath purchased with his own blood, right? So the church of God, of course, when you go to Acts 7, is the Israelite, right? The Israelite community, the synagogue, right? Our people, the 12 tribes of Israel. We are the church of God. And it's our job, again, to go out there on the highways and byways and teach the people, all right? That's what helps us get the blood off our hand. And that's actually us keeping the commandments as well. So again, the collateral damage of sin can result in loss of life, loss of your family members, the loss of property, infrastructure, family, right? Kingdoms, all these things diminish because of what? Because of sin. All right. So if you're a man and you're listening to this and you love your family, I highly recommend that you consider this to be a warning, right? To be a warning on what not to do. If you are, again, if you are a brother, right, and you're coming in this truth and you're trying to figure out how to lead your family, just listen to the words that I'm about to teach you, right? Take heed, take notice, write these things down, study, meditate, pray, fast, do the things that you got to do to receive this information. This is Deuteronomy 32:7. It says, remember the days of old. Remember the days of old, right? Now, what happened in the days of old? You had men that were righteous and they prospered. And then you also had men that were wicked and there was collateral damage by their wickedness. All right. You had men that were righteous, then you had wicked men, and you saw how the Most High ultimately judged them. All right. It says, remember the days of old, consider the years of many generations. Ask thy father, and he will show thee, thy elders, and they will tell thee. Okay. This is why it's important for our people to understand what's going on, especially in these last days, because we don't have that much time. Faith is only but for so long. I mean, Salakia, grace is only but for so long, right? You can only have grace for so long. This is Deuteronomy 28:30. Deuteronomy 28:30 says, thou shalt betroth a wife. Okay, let me start at verse 15. Let me get the context. So Deuteronomy 28:15 says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, meaning if we do not listen to what God is telling us, God tells us to keep the commandments. God tells us to what? Keep the feast days and the high holy days. God tells us to love our brother, to love our sister, all these things, right? So it says, if we will not listen to the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses, right, shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So what we're going to read, right, is a list of curses. I'm not going to go through all of them, but again, I highly recommend to look at these curses, because these curses is collateral damage. This is a result of you being disobedient to the Most High God. God told you to keep the commandments. You went this way and God was going this way. Now there's a collateral damage, right? And here's one of them, verse 30. It says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. That's collateral damage, right? A man, whether you want to go into the understanding of the slave master taking our women and raping them, right? The slave master doing that. The Native Americans had their whole families destroyed by the European settlers, right? Whole families were destroyed. I highly recommend, there's a movie out by a gentleman by the name of Martin Scorsese. It's a movie called Killers of the Flower Moon. And it literally goes into how the white man, right, the so-called European, the so-called white man, so-called European, the Edomite, came into the Americas, right, the land that we know of as America, and ultimately got financial wealth, financial gain, land, property by taking the women, right, and getting their Native American, right, their Native American rights under their last name. So I highly recommend you watching that. But again, it says, thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. And thou shalt build an house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard, and shall not gather the grapes thereof. Again, one of the collateral damages of the sin of our people is being enslaved, right? Being slaves, building houses, the White House, the big house, the slave house, the barns, the shelters for the animals, plowing the fields, having our women being sodomized and raped, having our young children being raped in front of you. And a lot of times having our young men being butt broken and raped in front of their mothers, in front of their fathers, in front of their brothers and sisters, right? This is the collateral damage that our people had to suffer from, right? So one of the things I want to focus on is kingdoms, right? Kings. So let's say I'm a ruler of my kingdom. Let's say I'm in my home, right? And this is my kingdom. Or let's think about the kings of old, right? Some of the kings of the past that were wicked. Ahab comes to mind, right? Think about guys like Ahab. If you desire, matter of fact, let me just get this in Wisdom of Solomon real quick. The Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6. So some of these brothers, if you're listening and your desire is to lead your family into prosperity, think about the collateral damage that can happen by your actions. As the leader of the household, before we get this Wisdom of Solomon 6, I also want to get this in 1 Corinthians 3. So 1 Corinthians 11 and 3 says, but I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ. So, Yahawah'S is our head, okay? And the head of the woman is the man, all right? So just think about that and let that sink in, that the head of the woman is the man. So you as a man have to lead your family. When you sin, that sin trickles down to your wife, and then it infects the wife, right? And then that sin trickles down to the children, and it infects the children. So think about the collateral damage when you take the responsibility as a man, because being a man is one thing. Being a husband and being a father is a whole different set of terms and conditions, right? As a man, you can kind of live life. You want to go to jail, you can go to jail, right? You want to live life and do this, that, and the third, you can do that. There's no responsibility. You just live in life. But when you take on the responsibility of marrying someone, that comes with rules, that comes with checks and balances, right? That comes with cause and effect. And, when you go off, when you sin, you got to think about how that's going to affect or infect your wife, right? And sisters, right? The same way. If you're in sin, think about the children. Think about the little ones. Think about the things that can infect them and trickle down to them, and so forth and so forth. So again, the head of the woman is the man. So as a king, right? And I believe that the Israelite man is a king. And then when he taps into his potential of keeping the commandments, keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, then of course that's when we have that godlike status, right? We see that in Psalm 82, where the scripture says, I have said ye are gods, but you would die like men. And that's collateral damage, right? When you go into sin, there's a whole list of things that can befall you and take you out. This is Apocrypha. This is the Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 18. It says, and love is keeping of her laws. So that's heavy, right? So what we just read is also a testimony to 1 John 5 and 3. Again, 1 John 5 and 3 gives you the definition Salakia. That was sin. But again, 1 John 5 and 3, let me just get that real quick. It's how we love God. All right, I just want to just get that real quick. I misspoke. So 1 John 3 and 4 is the definition of sin, which is what? Breaking the commandments. 1 John 5 and 3 teaches us how to love God. It says, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not grievous, or his commandments are not hard. So again, love is the keeping of her laws. So if you love God, you love your family, you love yourself, you love your children, you love your home. If you work for something, right? You got a nice crib, you got a nice home, you got a couple cars, you got a business, whatever the case may be. If you love the things that you worked hard for, if you want to maintain that, you got to keep the commandments, right? You got to love God. It says, and love is the keeping of her laws, and the giving heed unto her laws is the assurance of incorruption. And incorruption, it says the assurance of incorruption. So if I keep the commandments, I'm guaranteed that I'm not corrupted, right? And incorruption maketh us near unto God. Therefore, the desire of wisdom bringeth to a kingdom. I'm going to stop right there, right? If you desire to have and maintain what you work for, right, you have to have wisdom. Wisdom goes back to knowing the commandments, the laws, and the statutes, being obedient to the laws, statutes, and commandments. That's wisdom, right? Verse 21, this is for you brothers out here that want to be called king, and you call them brothers king. Verse 21 says, if your delight be then in thrones and scepters, meaning rulership, O ye kings of the people, it says, honor wisdom that ye may reign forevermore, right? It says, honor wisdom, honor the commandments of God, keep the commandments of God, right? Read the wisdom of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus. Read the wisdom of Solomon. Go into the Proverbs and get that wisdom so you can learn how to maintain that kingdom, how to maintain your family. I always say this, right? I always say this. A lot of us didn't come up knowing this truth. A lot of us didn't come up knowing the understanding. We kind of converted throughout life. So we understood what it was when you was in darkness, smoking weed, right? Fornicating. The list goes on and on, right? Being promiscuous. Our women were promiscuous. There's a collateral damage of being promiscuous. It's called sexually transmitted diseases. That's the collateral damage of what you would call a hot girl summer, right? Or pregnancy, and you don't know who the father is. Nothing wrong with being pregnant, but if it's done out of order, then then that's wrong, right? So again, if your job is to be a king, let me just get the duties of a king real quick. I want to get Deuteronomy 17, I think. Yeah, let's get Deuteronomy 17. If your desire is to be a king, right? Being a king comes with a lot of responsibility. Everybody wants to be a king, but nobody wants to really, well, very few, I'm not going to say no one, right? Very few want the responsibility. This is Deuteronomy 17. I'm going to start at verse 18. It says, and it shall be when he, the king, right, sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priest, the Levite. So the duty of a king is to write the law in totality, write the law. And this assures that the king knows the law. The Most High is so beautiful when he does these things. He's so beautiful. He gives you no way out. You don't have the luxury of saying, I didn't know. You don't have that luxury. You can't say, well, I didn't know I was supposed to, not have witches and warlocks and soothsayers and idolaters in my kingdom. Well, the law tells you not to do that. So the duty of a king is to write this law down. So so you understand what to do and what not to do. This allows the king to rule righteous rulership. All right. Verse 19, and it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life. Again, that's just having the familiarity of the law, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God. How do you fear God? You keep the commandments, right? To keep all the words of this law and these statutes to do them. All right, so that's the duty of a king. Verse 20, I'm going to just finish this out. That his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he may turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left hand, to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. That's so beautiful, right? Because again, when you look at the history, we started off earlier saying, consider the years of many generations, right? Deuteronomy 32:7, right? To consider the years of your forefathers. When you go through the Kings, the Chronicles, the Kings, right? And even Samuel, when you read and study about some of these kings that went the hell off, you saw nothing but collateral damage. I'm going to give you one. I'm going to give you a few. Let's get 1 Samuel 15:24. All right, let's get 1 Samuel 15:24. All right. So some of our brothers that's coming up, right? We want to be, we want to have that authority. We want to have that rulership. We want to sit in the king's chair. You want to have your crowns on, which is all good. It's all good. But there is a caveat. There is a caveat, and there's heavy prices to pay for wearing a heavy crown, right? I'm going to say it again. There are heavy prices to pay for wearing that heavy crown. Here's one. Let's talk about the first king of Israel. Who was the first king of Israel? A man named Saul, a Benjamite brother, right? The son of Kish. All right. This is 1 Samuel 15:24. And Saul said unto Samuel, Samuel's a prophet. He says, I have sinned. What is sin? The transgression of the law. So Saul transgressed the law of God, right? He says, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Stop right there. So Saul sinned against the Most High God, right? He disobeyed the prophet Samuel, right? When you go into the scriptures, it tells you to listen to his prophets. And he did it because he feared, instead of fearing God, he feared the people. And he transgressed the laws of God. All right. Let's read on. Now, therefore, I pray thee, pardon my sin. So Saul, right, a king of Israel, all the responsibility. Listen, Saul was anointed by God to lead his people. So you would think, right, in our mind, right, that Saul would have some sort of grace, some sort of mercy, some sort of, a slap on the wrist. Watch this. He says, I pray you therefore, pardon my sin and turn again with me that I may worship Yahweh, or worship the Lord. Verse 26. And Samuel said unto Saul, I will not return with thee, for thou hast rejected the word of Yahweh, and Yahweh, or the Lord, hath rejected thee from being king over Israel. So the first collateral damage that we see right here from the first king of Israel, I guess you could say the first king of Israel, is what? The kingdom was stripped from him, right? He rejected thee from being king. Let me read that last part again. And Yahweh hath rejected thee from being king over Israel. Heavy. You sinned one time. First time you sinned, and the Most High took that kingdom from that brother. Now, I want us to think about this as Israelites today. How many sins have we committed, and the Most High should have rejected us from being king over our families? How many sins have we committed, right, where the Most High should have took you from being that brother's wife, right? How many sins have we committed where the Most High should have took your life from you? Right? So think about this. This is what we would call grace. The king of Israel didn't receive the grace, right, that we get. But there is still a heavy burden to pay for sin. This is why you can't catch a break sometime. I used to think about these things when I was coming up, and I'm still I'm in the truth, and Most High will, and I stay in this truth. But I think about before I came under this understanding of us being Israelites and who Yahawah'S is and who he died for and what grace is all about. And we got to keep the commandments and be obedient to God. Before I understood that, and I was in the Christian church, I would think about some of the things that happened that was wrong, whatever the case may be. You get in a car accident, you lose your license, you lose your job, you go to jail. You think about relationships that didn't work out. And I started thinking to myself, was that collateral damage of sin? Even though I sinned, I was in sin unaware. I didn't know what sin was. I was ignorant in sin. But was there still a collateral damage that happened? Right? Just thinking about these things. And of course, you may not get put to death for the adultery that you committed. You may not get put to death for the fornication that you've done. However, there is some sort of a little bit of a recompense, a little bit of judgment, a little bit of, a slap on the wrist from the Most High God, right? So just something to think about, those little small bits of collateral damage. All right. So again, Saul. Let's finish out Saul. So again, the Most High, verse 26, right? He rejected Saul from being king over Israel. Verse 27, and as Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle, and it rent. Verse 28, and Samuel said, meaning it ripped, right? So he tried to, hold on to Samuel's garment, right? And it tore, a little bit of it tore. 28, and Samuel said unto him, the Lord, Yahweh, hath rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day, and have given it to a neighbor of thine that is better than thou. Right? So think about the collateral damage that Saul had. He committed sin one time. And what happened? The Most High took the kingdom from that brother. That's heavy, right? That's heavy. Again, there's a heavy price for having a heavy crown. A heavy price you got to carry for having that heavy crown. Let's get another king. Let's get King Solomon, right? First Kings 9 and 6. 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 6. King Solomon, the wisest king of them all, the richest king of all, right? The smartest king of all time, right? Actually, one of my favorite kings in the scriptures. But even still, there was a heavy price he had to pay. This is 1 Kings 9 and 6. But if ye shall at all turn from following me, ye or your children, and will not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them, and this house which I have hallowed for my name's sake. For which I have hallowed for my name, will I cast out my sight, and Israel shall be a proverb and a byword among all people. I want to stop right there. All right, that was 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 6. Now, the Most High is giving King Solomon his terms and conditions. I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you that. You're going to be better than this, brother, your David. You're going to be better than that. You're going to build my temple. You're going to build the house of the Lord. But if you go and serve these other gods, again, the recompense or the collateral damage of Solomon sinning was that the children of Israel will be a proverb and a byword, and the children of Israel were going to be cast out of the sight of the Most High. He was going to, again, verse 7, then will I cut off Israel out of the land which I have given them. Again, what is the definition of collateral damage? Harm of people, family, property, or infrastructure. Verse 8, 1 Kings 9 and 8. And at this house which is high, everyone that passeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss, and they shall say, why hath the Lord, or why hath Yahweh done thus unto this land and to this house? Property, right? This is the house of the Lord. And they shall answer, because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought forth their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have taken hold upon other gods, and have worshipped them, and served them. Therefore hath Yahweh brought upon them all this evil. Again, that's the collateral damage that the Most High gave to Solomon. And of course, we understand when you go into 1 Kings 11, what did he do, right? He started building temples for some of these other gods, because he was dealing with these women from these other nations. So we know what happens with King Solomon. The collateral damage from Saul was that the kingdom was rent from Saul and given to King David. The collateral damage of King Solomon was that the Most High was not only going to destroy the temple that Solomon built, but the Most High was going to allow the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, and even to this day, the American and the United States of America to have his people in bondage and slavery. So what you're seeing right here with our children at the border, the so-called the so-called Mexicans who are the children of Issachar, they're at the border over at the Texas, America, the American-Mexican border from California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas. That is a direct sin. That's the collateral damage of Solomon's sin. Once Solomon sinned and the kingdom split in two, the 12 tribes of Israel has never been united as the real children of Israel, understanding that we're Israelites. We've always bucked up against each other ever since King Solomon did his sin, because the snowball effect, right? The snowball effect. King Solomon sins, right? His son Rehoboam takes over. Then Jeroboam takes his 10 tribes up north. So the kingdom is now split, right? And in the southern kingdom, they stay down south. And ever since then, we ain't been united since. And to this day, it's 2024, and we still haven't been unified, reunited. We've always been divided. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reunite everything and everybody, but it's still an uphill battle because of the sin of King Solomon. All right. So that's it on that, right? So we got King Saul, King Solomon. Now I want to go to another king. Let's get Bel and the dragon in the Apocrypha. All right, let's get Bel and the dragon. I want to get chapter 1. I think there's only one chapter in this. Yeah, there's only one chapter. So let's get Bel and the dragon, verse 21. Chapter 1, verse 21. Now, for context, right? You got Daniel, the prophet. He is in captivity, and as the cupbearer of the king, he has to, he's doing the dirty work. When I say dirty work, he's doing the work for the king. But he's also an investigator in this part right here. You see him being taken on the role of a detective or an investigator, as of course Daniel is a servant of Yahawah, and the other nations, they worship this dragon. They worship Baal, or who Bel is Baal, which means, really, Baal just means another nation's lord or deity. So even they have priests, right? My point is, even the other nations, they have their own priests. All right. This is verse 21. It says, and took the priest with their wives. This is the other God's priest. This is Baal's priest. And the king, so like in verse 21, and took the priests with their wives and children, who shewed him the privy doors where they came in, and consumed such things as were upon the table. So let me just give you the context. There's a statue, right? There's a statue of the other nations' gods. Now, these statues can't eat. They can't talk. Like someone has to design the statue. Think about that, right? Someone has to design the statue. They have to create it. They have to be a craftsman. They have to put a nose or horns, whatever that statue was supposed to resemble. That's what they created. So this statue is not alive. It can't breathe, right? It can't grow. It doesn't eat. It doesn't defecate. It can't reproduce, right? It doesn't qualify for something that's alive. So the heathen, historically speaking, would bring food over to these statues. You see it to this day, right? The Moabite, they would put food at the tombstones of their loved ones, assuming that their loved ones can actually eat this food, which we know is you can't do that. It's impossible, right? The same thing for a statue. All right, so the heathen will bring food for their statues, their gods, and expect their gods to actually eat the food, which would be a miracle. If a statue can eat food, then there you go, right? Then that God is real. The problem is the priest of these heathen gods had took their children and their wives and their family members, and they would go in at night through a secret door and eat the food. So the next morning, the king or whoever would come in and say, oh, this, Dogon or whatever, right? This god really did eat the food. He must be alive. He must be a real god, which was all a bunch of crap. And Daniel was smart enough to expose it, right? So verse 22 says, therefore, let me read verse 21 again. And took the priests with their wives and children, who shewed him the privy doors, which is a secret door that they would come into. So again, the heathen would bring their children through the secret door, and they would come down, right? And they would eat the food that they put before this deity. And then they would go back to bed and, try to play a prank, so to speak, or a trick to seem like their God was real. So that's the private doors, or the private doors, right? Where they came in and consumed such things as were upon the table. Therefore, here's the collateral damage. Watch this. Therefore, the king slew them and delivered Baal into Daniel's power, who destroyed him and his temple. All right. So if I'm a man, right? If I'm a man and I'm having my 8-year-old son, my 5-year-old daughter, my 2-year-old daughter, and my rib, right? And I get some other men and I say, hey, we're going to go down and eat. And we're going to act like, this God, right? This deity was eating this food. And the wages of that sin was, that madness was death, not only for you, but for your children and your family and your wife. You know what I'm saying? You got to think, was it worth it? No, right? That's the collateral damage of sin, right? Again, the definition of collateral damage is harm of people, family, property, or infrastructure. And we're looking at it right here, the collateral damage of sin. All right, so that's it on that. All right, so let's get the next king. All right, or let's get the next leader. I want to introduce you guys. You might know him. All right, a man by the name of Eli. All right, anybody know who Eli is? Eli. Let's get 1 Samuel 3 and 12. 1 Samuel 3 and 12. And if you understand, before we had kings, right? We had judges, right? So during the time of the judges, you had men that were, acting as kings, and they would, judge their families, their tribes, their jurisdictions that they had control over. Those would be the judges, right? So during this time, Israel doesn't have a king yet, right? So this is 1 Samuel 3 and 12. And just think about this when we come into the collateral damage of what? Of sin. 1 Samuel, let me see, what do I want? I want 3. Let me start at verse number 12. It says, in that day, I started verse 12. In that day, I will perform against Eli all things which I have spoken concerning his house, meaning his family. When I begin, I will also make an end. So Eli, let's just go back to what Eli was a judge or a prophet, right? He had sons that were wicked. I'm talking about they were wicked, right? Wicked sons. But Eli never corrected his sons. You can have wicked sons, but your job as a father is to correct them. The scripture says you spare the rod, you spoil the child. Proverbs 6:22, I think it's 6:22 says, train up a child in the way he should go. Meaning you have to train your child. If your child is sassy or, being a sissy or having some effeminate tendencies, your job as a father is to correct that. Your daughter is acting on behalf that's not for a young woman to act, right? Your job is to correct that. That's the job of the father, is to teach and to lead and to discipline. And our brother Eli did none of those things. Our brother Eli did none of those things. Hey, look, there's a scripture in Deuteronomy, I think it's 22, where a father, if his child ain't getting it, what I mean by getting it, he's not understanding, he's causing Problem after problem after problem, after problem. His father and his mother got to bring him out and they got to stone that young man to keep sin out of the community. How many of us, right, would follow through on that? How many of us would bring our children out to get stoned because they not listening or they want to be a drunkard or a thief or a murderer, right? So just think about these things as we go on through this lesson. So again, Eli, right? That brother did not correct his sons. Here's the collateral damage on that. Verse 13. Now, the Most High said, I will make an end to his house, right? His house, his actual physical house. But the word bath or bayath or beth, when you go into the modern Hebrew, sort of speaking, means family as well, right? It can also be family. My daughter or my son is my house, right? House of Ra'am, the house of this brother, the house of that brother would also qualify as family, right? His children, his wife. Verse 13, for I have told him that I will judge his house forever for the iniquity. What is iniquity? Iniquity is sin. So he says, I will judge his family or his house forever for the iniquity which he knoweth, because his sons made themselves vile and he restrained them not. He didn't correct them. He did not correct them. He allowed them to continue in sin. Verse 15, and Samuel lay until the morning and opened the doors of the house of the Most High. And Samuel feared to show Eli the vision, right? So what we got to understand is the Most High, again, is passing out judgment, which is also the collateral damage. But what my point is, what I'm showing you is that how someone can commit a sin and it trickles down to his family. It trickles down to the nation. It trickles down, right? It's a snowball effect. You may commit a sin that's small at the top of that mountain, at Mount Everest, right? Or some of these mountains in the Himalayas. And it's a small baseball. But then as it rolls down, it picks up steam. It picks up more mass. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger to where you can't escape. Then it becomes one of these avalanches. So my point is, you can go through the Bible, right? And you can see where a man and a woman sin and they die right there on the spot. But what I'm trying to show you is the collateral damage. How when you sin, it actually affects the people that are near and dear to you. They didn't commit a sin, but they still paid for it because of what the father did. They still paid for it because of what the mother did, right? They still pay for it because of what the king did or what the priest didn't do. All these things, they trickle down. So now the idea of this lesson is to have you think about people that are near to you when you commit sin. Yeah, nobody will see me when I'm doing X, Y, and Z. The Most High sees you, right? And if the Most High sees you and he decides, hey, you know what? The brother did something wicked. Now he's going to go broke. You ain't got no money no more, right? If you ain't got no money, now your lights ain't on, right? Lights go out. Food not in the refrigerator. Now your kids are starving. Then you realize, man, my kids starve because of the sin I committed. As a father, I shouldn't have done what I've done. So now I got to clean it up, but you still got to pay for that sin. That's the collateral damage. Again, it's harm of people, family, property, or infrastructure. All right, let's get Joshua 7:1. I'm going to bring another brother out. A lot of us don't know who this brother is. Brother name is Achan or Achan, right? The Judite brother. Let's get Joshua 7, all right, and 1. But the children of Israel committed a trespass in the accursed thing. For Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, took the accursed thing, and the anger of Yahweh was kindled against the children of Israel. So during this time, let's just get a new understanding. During this time, the Israelites were they left Egypt, coming into the land, and they had to go to war with some of these Canaanite nations. All right, some of these Canaanite nations. So the first city that they conquered, the spoils were supposed to go to who? The Most High. The spoils were supposed to go to the Most High. The first, right? The first spoil goes to God. And Achan took some of those things and hid them. So now these things became what? They became the accursed thing. So that's the accursed thing. Some of the spoils that go back to the city that they just conquered. All right. Let me get verse 11 of the same chapter. All right. This verse 11. This is Joshua chapter 7, verse 11. Now, again, it also said that the children of Israel, right? The Most High had an anger against the children of Israel. So now you got to think, there's a collateral damage of Achan's sin, or Achan, right? His sin was that the Most High was furious with the children of Israel. Now look at verse 11. It says, Israel have sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. For they have even taken the accursed thing, and have also stolen and dissembled also, and they have put it even among their own stuff. Therefore, the children of Israel could not stand before their enemies, right? So they went to war, they got their butts kicked because God wasn't with them. That's the collateral. That's not the collateral damage I want to get to, but that is collateral damage, right? So you get a 2-for-1 here, y'all. But turn their backs before their enemies, meaning they ran away, they retreated because they were accursed. Neither will I be with you anymore, except ye destroy the accursed from among you. So real quick, the accursed from among you would be who? The brother that caused this whole fiasco, which would be who? Achan. So God is saying, y'all got to get rid of this brother that stole from you if you want this to stop, which was them getting their butts kicked by these Hamites. All right, let's get verse 24. So again, Joshua 7:24. All right, Joshua 7:24. Is that what? Yeah, 24. It says, and Joshua and all Israel with him took Achan, the son of Zerah, and the silver, and the garment, and the wedge of gold. This is what Achan stole. He stole silver, garments, and gold, right? It said he took all that, took him. Then it says, verse 24, it says, and his sons, and his daughters, and his oxen, and his asses, and his sheep, and his tent, right? And all that he had, and they brought them into the valley of Achor. Excuse me. Verse 25, and Joshua said, why hast thou troubled us? Like, think about the selfishness that Achan had to where he got the memo. Don't take anything. And this Judite brother took something, right? So Joshua was like, yo, why you troubled us? Why'd you bring this upon us? Hold on. Right? The Lord shall trouble thee this day. And all Israel stoned him with stones and burned them with fire after they had stoned them with stones. So again, the collateral damage from Achan's sin was the children of Israel they couldn't stand and fight against their enemies. But then Achan's family, his property, his infrastructure, his goats, his asses, his cattle, all got destroyed, all got stoned, and all got burned. Again, you men, our brothers, if you would desire to be a king, you must adhere to the wisdom of the Most High. If not, your family, your friends, all you worked for will be destroyed. Thus saith the Lord. That's the collateral damage of sin. We're seeing it all through the annals of time. All right? You're seeing it all through the annals of time. And we're going through the brothers. I'm getting on you brothers today. I'm getting on you brothers today because the brothers today are the leaders of tomorrow. The brothers today lead tomorrow. The brothers today are going to lead their children on how to lead their children, on how to lead their children, on how to lead their children, and so forth and so forth. How to fear the Most High God. One thing I tell my young son, and he knows this to this day, the Most High God don't care nothing about you if you in sin. He will kill you. And just because you, just because you like yourself, you may look in the mirror and you may love who you are. But if you in sin, the Most High does not share that same sentiment that you have for yourself. Let that sink in. I'm going to say it again and I'm going to say it slowly. You may love who you are. You may look in the mirror and like what you see. You may be a good person. You may feed the homeless. You may do community service. But if you are in sin, the Most High does not share that same sentiment about you. He is a just God that judges righteous judgment with no respecter of persons. And we seeing it through here right here. Let's get a man after God's own heart. Let's get 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 13. King David, right? King David, a man after God's own heart. He inherits the kingdom from Saul, right? Saul had his collateral damage. Let's get David's sin. Let's get 2 Samuel 12 and let's get verse 13. All right. Well, okay, first what is the sin that David committed? Again with Bathsheba, right? What was the sin he committed? Adultery. Last time I checked, that was a sin punishable by death. And again, David was the king of Israel. So he knows that, as a king, you can't, as an Israelite or as a person, you cannot commit adultery. As a king, he knows that, and he also enforces that law. And then he goes and commits that same transgression. This is verse 13, 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Most High. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord, or the Most High, also hath put away thy sin, thou shalt not die. Again, the wages of David's sin was death. So in a way, David got grace because he didn't die. He stayed alive. Okay. Let me just read on, right? Verse 14. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Most High to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. Right? So the collateral damage of David's sin was that child had to die. The child didn't do nothing. He's just a product of David and Bathsheba's adultery. And that child, the Most High took the life of that child, right? Verse 15. And Nathan departed unto his house, and the Most High struck the child that Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. So David understood his child had to die. Child gets sick. So then David goes in and he's still trying to intercede for the child on behalf of the child. Right? And he knows the child has to die. The prophet just told